For years, romance tropes told us that for a relationship to be passionate, it had to be volatile. We were taught that a playboy needs a woman to fix him and that true intimacy requires you to lose a bit of your independence along the way. But when Off Campus released, Allie Hayes and Dean DeLaurentis completely shattered that blueprint. They showed us that the most electric chemistry on campus doesn't come from toxic power games. It comes from two fiercely independent people who refuse to dim their light for anyone. Today, we're doing a psychological deep dive into the 4 pillars of why women are obsessed with Allie and Dean. We're going to break down these 4 specific dynamics that make them the ultimate standard of a high-status partnership. We're talking about everything from the power of a woman who genuinely enjoys her own company, how Dean completely subverts the toxic playboy archetype, and how they protect each other's wildest career ambitions instead of confining them. Without further ado, let's get into this. The first pillar of why we love Allie Hayes and why her relationship with Dean works so beautifully comes down to a trait that is surprisingly rare in modern love interests. Allie genuinely, unapologetically enjoys her own company. There is a specific iconic scene in Off Campus, I know you know what I'm talking about, where Dean walks in on Allie dancing by herself in the middle of the living room. She's lost in her own world, and she isn't performing for an audience. She isn't waiting around for her boyfriend at the time to join her. She isn't moping about the fact that her boyfriend's still at the car. She's just enjoying her own company. Not looking for another man to validate her, she is simply filling her own cup. To the untrained eye, this might just seem like a cute, quirky scene in the moment, but from a psychological standpoint, when it comes to relationships, this moment is a massive green flag that sets the tone for the entire story. It demonstrates that Allie is a woman who possesses a high level of self-differentiation. In psychology, self-differentiation is the ability to maintain your own sense of self, your own emotional climate, your own joy, completely independent of the people around you. Allie doesn't enter Dean's world as a fraction of a person looking to be made whole. She enters his world complete, fully realized as an individual who is already content with who she is. When a person genuinely enjoys their own solitude, it fundamentally changes the power dynamic of the relationship. It means that they are dating out of selection, not out of necessity. Allie doesn't need Dean to entertain her, and she sure as heck doesn't need him to come save her from her boredom. This inherent self-sufficiency is exactly what acts as a magnet for other individuals like Dean, for a guy who is completely and constantly used to people performing and trying to impress him because he's this womanizer, that it signals to him that she can't be bought. Allie cannot be easily manipulated. She's never gonna solely rely on him as a source of her happiness. Furthermore, this scene has highlighting the concept of emotional autonomy. Allie's ability to dance alone shows that she has a sanctuary built within herself. She knows how to self-soothe. She knows how to enjoy the mundane. She knows how to have fun on her own. She knows how to protect her peace of mind. Women love Allie because she represents the ultimate standard of self-love. Not the superficial kind, not the social media version of self-love, but the deep internal comfort of being entirely at peace in your own skin. By showcasing that she is her own best friend, first, Allie sets this boundary before a single word is even spoken. She establishes that any man who wishes to enter her space cannot bring chaos. He has to match the peace and joy that she already has built for herself. The second pillar we have to discuss is the absolute subversion of the classic campus playboy blueprint. In traditional romance media, the wealthy, attractive, popular, athletic guy is most always written with a dark, brooding, and ultimately toxic edge. We have been conditioned to expect the playboy to be emotionally unavailable, prone to jealous outbursts, and constantly playing mind games to keep his partner off balance. The toxic trope tells us that a man being a player, or his charm, is a sign of deep-seated damage that the heroine must painstakingly heal. But Dean DeLaurentis completely shatters this exhausting narrative. Dean is a playboy, yes, but he is a playboy rooted in a deeply secure and healthy sense of masculinity. What makes Dean so compelling to women women and just the audience in general, is that his confidence doesn't require anyone else to be diminished. He is entirely secure in who he is, which means he doesn't carry the fragile ego that so often plagues traditional romance heroes. When he encounters a woman like Allie, who is sharp, unimpressed by his usual lines, and completely capable of holding her own, Dean doesn't react with anger or defensiveness, or even a desire to break her spirit. A man with an insecure ego feels threatened by a woman's independence and ambition. A man with a secure sense of masculinity finds it exhilarating. And Dean doesn't want a submissive partner who worships him. He wants a match. He wants a partner. He leans into her with resistance, with a sense of playful curiosity rather than a toxic need for conquest. This security manifests most powerfully in how Dean handles emotional transparency. Traditional playboys hide behind walls of stoicism because they view vulnerability as a threat to their power. Dean, however, has emotional courage. He doesn't pretend to look detached. He doesn't pretend to be playing it cool. He doesn't play hard to get. He says, "I'm Six Flags," and that's blatantly honest. He starts their fling by saying, "I don't do relationships," and he's very transparent about it. Then when he realizes that he has feelings for Allie, and it shifts from that casual arrangement that they start with, he doesn't lie about it. He doesn't run away. He simply accepts the reality of his emotions and leans into it. He is secure enough to let Allie see him try, secure enough to let her see him care, and secure enough to show his cards without fearing rejection. By removing exhausting push and pull mind games that define toxic relationships, Dean redefines what a strong male lead looks like. He proves that true masculinity isn't about dominance, control, or feigned indifference. It's about having a nervous system so regulated that you have an identity that is so solid that you can pursue a woman you want with total clarity and zero manipulation. Women love Dean because he represents a man who is entirely safe to love, because he doesn't use his charm as a weapon. He doesn't use it to be deceptive. He may be sarcastic, but he's honest to a fault and isn't afraid of his feelings. The third pillar of why Allie and Dean's dynamic resonates so deeply is how they navigate the delicate balance between intense romantic intimacy and fierce personal ambition. In so many romance storylines, a subtle but deeply toxic sacrifice is demanded of the female lead. Her world must shrink to accommodate the hero's life. Her dreams, her career path, her financial goals, her personal goals are often sidelined and framed as an inconvenience to the central romance. But off-campus rejects this compromise entirely. Allie Hayes is a woman with an uncompromising vision for her future in theater and acting. And Dean De Laurentiis is a man stepping into his own high-stakes future himself. Instead of their bond becoming a cage that confines their aspirations, they help one another flourish. From a relational psychology standpoint, this is a masterclass in secure attachment. In an unhealthy relationship, partners often view each other's individual dreams as a threat to the bond. Think of Sean. There's a subconscious fear that if one person grows, travels, succeeds too much, they will outgrow the relationship. This insecurity breeds control, passive-aggressive discouragement, or even subtle manipulation to keep the other person small. Dean and Allie operate differently. Dean doesn't look at Allie's ambition as something that he needs to tame. He looks at her talent with a sense of awe and acts as her biggest champion. He's the first one to clap when she's done performing. When Allie gets opportunities that require her to step into the spotlight or take risks, Dean doesn't panic about losing her attention. He actively holds the door open for her. This unshakable support is entirely mutual. Allie doesn't resent Dean's obligations to hockey or try to anchor him down. She respects his drive. They understand a fundamental truth that many couples miss. A healthy relationship is not built on codependency, where two people fuse into a single identity and abandon their individual callings. It is built on interdependence, where two complete individuals can walk side by side, pulling their strength without diluting their individual essences. They create an environment where neither person ever has to choose between their thriving career and a fulfilling love life. This dynamic shows a man who is so secure in his own lane that he celebrates his woman's success louder than anyone else in the room. Dean doesn't need to be the sole anchor of Allie's universe. By refusing to confine one another's aspirations, Allie and Dean prove that true romantic devotion doesn't mean giving up your individual destiny. It means finding a partner who matches your drive and protects your right to chase it. The final and perhaps most crucial pillar of why Allie and Dean capture lightning in a bottle is the blatant honesty that they build from day one. In standard romance narratives, plot lines are notoriously dragged out by the miscommunication trope, where characters hide their feelings, lie about their intentions, or even suppress their past traumas out of fear. This creates artificial tension and teaches audiences that vulnerability is a dangerous gamble. Allie and Dean are different. They establish an entirely different baseline. Their relationship begins under the terms of a transparent, zero-strings arrangement. But because they strip away the performance in traditional dating games right out of the gate, they accidentally fast-track a level of psychological safety that some couples take years to build. From a psychological perspective, blatant honesty functions as the ultimate relational shortcut because it eliminates ambiguity. Ambiguity is a breeding ground for anxiety, overthinking, and insecurity, and because Allie and Dean are completely upfront with what they want, how they feel, and where they stand, there is no guesswork. They create an environment where truth is always safe to speak, no matter how uncomfortable it might be. When Dean realizes that he is falling for Allie, he doesn't hide behind his playboy persona. After talking to his best friend, he doesn't hide being detached. He immediately calls her and tries to tell her. He goes to Malone's to talk to her. He puts his cards on the table. When Allie faces massive emotional weights, she doesn't mask her pain or push him away. She allows him to see her in her rawest, most unedited states. This unshakable foundation of trust becomes a literal lifeline for whatever they may encounter in season 2. Why? Because you cannot break a bond that has already been tested by complete, absolute transparency. Dean doesn't panic when Allie is vulnerable because he doesn't view her sadness as a problem to be solved or an inconvenience to his well-being or lifestyle. He views it as a sacred space he is privileged to hold. He steps up, coordinates the logistics of her life, protects her energy, and demands nothing from her in return, proving that a high-status man knows exactly how to carry the weight when his partner's strength gives out. We love Allie and Dean because they redefine what emotional intimacy actually looks like. It isn't just sweet words or romantic dates, it's the profound relief of being fully known and fully accepted without having to hide your scars or edit your reality. By practicing radical honesty from day one, Allie and Dean prove that vulnerability isn't a weakness that leaves you exposed. When met with secure masculinity and mutual respect, vulnerability is the exact force that turns their casual connection into what seems to be an unbreakable force moving into season 2. When you strip away the campus setting, the witty banter, and the effortless charm, the real reason we love Allie and Dean comes down to one undeniable truth. They show us what love looks like when both partners refuse to play small. They prove that you don't have to sacrifice your independence to find intimacy, and you don't have to hide your feelings or vulnerability to stay strong. They give us a masterclass in what happens when two complete, self-assured people choose to build an unshakable bond. If this psychological breakdown gave you a whole new appreciation for Allie and Dean, or if you're just trying to hold your own relationships to a higher standard, make sure to hit that subscribe button. We're building a community right here dedicated to analyzing healthy masculinity, high quality partnerships, and the media that gets it right. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.